Considering what most people were expecting from this season, 2024 was one that promised so little, but so far has delivered so much. We've seen 7 race winners, 1-2s everywhere. Okay, George was disqualified from Spa, but still. Right from the off, we've seen unexpected driver moves, drama, controversy, and some fantastic action on the track. And one that I have to say has been one of the best seasons for battles between teammates that I've seen in years. We've also seen the slowing down of the Red Bull machine, which has allowed for 7 different Grand Prix winners this year, something that we only could have dreamt of in previous seasons. Of course, there's the usual suspects, but we saw Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri both score their maiden Grand Prix wins, and also Charles Leclerc win at his home Grand Prix at Monaco. Finally. So now we're in a position where particularly the Constructors' title is not the open and shut case that it was before. So it appears we're heading into a very exciting second half of the season. We're on course to seeing the best season of the hybrid ground effect era that we've seen so far. However, if just a few more things happened after the summer break until the end of the season, we could be on our way to perfection, or as close as you could get to it anyway. So let's take a look at this little wish list of things for the second half of the 2024 season. But just very quickly, why not subscribe to the channel? It's almost at 5,000 subscribers and it would be fantastic to smash through that number. So let's just kick things off with something that would be the absolute cherry on the cake for the 2024 season. Because time is running out, but in the grand scheme of things it appears to be quite small, but it would be so significant. And that would be for Nico Hülkenberg to finally score a podium. I wonder what that would even look or feel like as he's coming round on his final lap to take the checkered flag. Honestly, to a lot of people, if Hülkenberg was to score a podium this year, it would be one of those "where were you when" moments. Or maybe even a "I'm not crying, you're crying" moment. And again, it's something which appears so insignificant on the face of it. I mean, wishing for a single podium place. I mean, Hamilton and Verstappen probably use second or third place trophies just as paperweights or to hold doors open. 217 starts in F1 and not a single piece of silverware to show for it. Imagine his grandchildren realising that he was an F1 driver and they asked to see his trophies. How depressing is that? Now, from what I gather from your feedback too, it is something that I think the vast majority of F1 fans would love to see. Aside from his younger days where he had a few rough edges, I don't think that many people would have a bad word to say about him. He's clearly not a figure that divides the F1 community like perhaps others seem to. He's a likeable guy, he's an underdog, and he's always one of these drivers that impresses when he's not supposed to. You just wonder what he could do with, like, Perez's Red Bull, for example. He's had an excellent string of results recently at Haas, and hopefully after the summer break that momentum can continue forward into a race that's hopefully filled with lots of DNFs and a fair amount of carnage. Which is why I think if he's to score a podium, especially with the car that he has underneath him this year, this year has to be it. With him moving to Sauber next season, which currently seem about as effective as a barrel of monkeys, I really think that this year could be his best chance yet. But wait, Paul, he's going to be an Audi driver soon, so what about then? Well, all the stuff that we're seeing coming out in the news about Audi so far, I don't really have high hopes, especially not straight away anyway. I think a Hülkenberg podium is something that's perfectly reasonable to ask for, especially now that since Haas have sorted out their car. It's not like I'm asking for a third world title for Alonso or a Sebastian Vettel return or anything. If he was to get it, it would also be the first podium for the Haas team, and it would be a great way to finally wash the smell of Günther Steiner out of the place once and for all. So come on, Hol, get that podium place once and for all. Because the entire F1 world would be behind you and it would be a moment in history if it happened. Now, stepping things up to something that seems inevitable right now is the back and forth battle between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri for the remainder of the season. McLaren have built a solid car for 2024 and developed it into one that is right now the best on the grid, depending on circumstances and track conditions, but overall I think that's fair to say. Now, whilst Red Bull appear to have a whole host of problems to deal with, McLaren have a perfect opportunity to step things up and clinch that Constructors' Championship. We've seen from the last few Grand Prix that McLaren now have 2 cars that are capable of winning races, starting from the front row, finishing the 1-2s. The problem is what order the drivers finish in, and also the circumstances. Because it looks like that things are going to seriously hot up between Norris and Piastri. Because whilst it was great to see Piastri win at the Hungaroring, it would be fantastic to see him do it in less controversial circumstances, shall we say. And unfortunately, that victory was overshadowed by other things. So with both drivers now at 1-1 in terms of wins, there's a real feeling that both are ready to step up for the rest of the season, try and establish who's going to be dominant at the team and show us also who is going to be world champion later down the line. Both drivers will be wanting to start the 2025 season in the best shape possible. So in their eyes, they've only got between now and the end of the season to show McLaren who is going to be their safest bet. Now, if McLaren continue this rate of improvement and keep their car development on the rails, they could very easily pick up a bundle of wins, which could put them right in the running for the Constructors' Championship. And whilst Norris and Piastri seemed like a dream combo at McLaren that complemented each other brilliantly, the carrot of victory has now been dangled in front of both of them. And from this, we are now seeing a new side to both drivers, especially Lando Norris, who seemed a little perturbed by Piastri's rise in only his second season. Unlike Red Bull, Mercedes or Ferrari, who have one driver leaving at the end of the season, or almost appears to be doing so, what's going on at McLaren is going to be absolutely fascinating because both drivers are going to be there next season and will be there also until the year 2026 and 27. It's not like one of them is going to grab what they can and then leave. Both of them are going to be there for the long haul. So either McLaren are going to have to grow considerably to accommodate their aspirations of both drivers, or perhaps give a rethink to the entire driver dynamic. And so how Norris and Piastri perform for the rest of the season after the summer break is certainly going to sow the seeds to McLaren's short-term and long-term future. And following on from that, something I'd like to focus on is something that we've been deprived of since 2021, and it is a down-to-the-wire championship battle. And I have a little feeling that given the amount of races that we have left, we might be seeing one before the end of the season. Now, because of the momentum that Max is carrying and also his ability to pick up decent points even when he isn't winning races, I do think that a Drivers' Championship battle is beyond reach this year. We may be surprised, but ultimately it's just a bridge too far. With Max's lead in the Drivers' Championship, there will need to be a single driver who's not having points taken off him, battling him at all times. But with what we have right now, I don't see that happening because behind Max it appears to be a jumble of drivers such as Norris, Piastri, Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton and Sainz, all of which are taking points off each other. And because of this, none of them can really spearhead a push towards catching Max Verstappen. And the only way I think this can happen is if Lando Norris stays on top of this pile and snatches wins off Max Verstappen and takes points off him at each race. But given his form recently and the rise in confidence and form of Oscar Piastri, it's going to be a difficult thing to happen. But what I'm sure that will go down to the wire is the Constructors' Championship. Okay, sure, it might not be as sexy or popular as the Drivers' Championship, but for the teams, this is where the money is. And let's face it, Red Bull for most of this season have been boxing with one arm tied behind their back. And because of this, they just don't have that breathing space of points between first and second that they did in previous seasons. Max has been scoring the chunk of the points this season. Checo has seriously fallen behind and his place is even under threat now, and this has left Ferrari and McLaren to close the gap in the title. But like I said with the Drivers' Championship, we need a team like McLaren to break free from the pack and start piling on the points to knock Red Bull off their perch. And with that, Red Bull, I'm sure, are massively hoping for a three-way fight between Ferrari, McLaren and Mercedes because they all take points off each other and it helps their title cause massively. A down-to-the-wire Constructors' Championship on the final race of the season at Abu Dhabi is something that F1 right now seriously needs. Now, something else I would like to see after the summer break is a recovery from Fernando Alonso because so far his drive at Aston Martin this year has been, well, catastrophic. Something has gone badly wrong this year with Aston Martin, and unless there is a turnaround, I sense that he could end things with the team a little earlier than expected. Alonso doesn't seem to hang around for anybody, and I do wonder if we are now at the beginning of that Fernando Alonso cycle where he starts to become dissatisfied with the team, in which he gets to the point where he ultimately leaves. And it's just such a shame to see him like this because he's still a fantastic driver, and especially when he's got the car underneath him, he can put in some fantastic performances. He's contracted to Aston Martin until 2026 and he wants to stay in F1, but let's just hope it's for the right reasons and not just being Lance Stroll's au pair. And I know that this is effectively a wish list video, but I'm not going to go completely mental saying that if Fernando Alonso wins a race in 2024, that is going to be the perfect season. But more just him ending the season on a good note, perhaps even snatching a podium. For a lot of F1 fans, having Alonso up at the sharp end on the grid is very important because he is one of the last of the V10 and V8 drivers. For a lot of people, Alonso is relatable because he's either a similar age or even older than some fans. For some people, Alonso is the last bastion, the Alamo, that bit in Saving Private Ryan just before they blow the bridge, because after he's gone, along with Hamilton and Hülkenberg, F1 is going to to appear a lot more like a university common room. The average age in F1 after they're gone is going to plummet. But what do you guys think? Have I left anything out? Is there anything that you want to see in the second half of the season after the summer break? If so, do let me know in the comments below. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'm Paul, and I'll see you later. Cheers.